Welcome to the channel where all you gotta do is repower this skid steer. So, first episode, I pulled the motor out of the Bobcat and kind of showed what the motor looks like for the V-twin that I'm going to put in it. And I need to make a motor mount and some brackets to drive the hydraulic pump. So this is what I came up with. This is essentially the mounting pattern here. These bolts here go to the skid steer, and these bolts here are the new V-twin. So um, that's pretty straightforward. It just bolts straight down here, and then you bolt the motor to it. So this would have to be a threaded plate. And then this is the location of the shaft and where the pulley variable speed shiv needs to be. So I just made a little kind of a crude approximation of what that shiv looks like and where it's going to be. And then I needed a little mount for the hydraulic pump. So this is the hydraulic pump pilot size here. And then I just put a bolt hole here and a slot and a little brace on it. So hydraulic pump's going to stick out of this side. And these are the pulleys I bought. So I got two 35 tooth pulleys. They have like a, I don't know, 12 millimeter hole in the middle or something. So I'm just going to modify that. This one I think is a 16 millimeter pilot hole, and this one's inch and 7/16. So yeah, now that I have this designed up, I got a drawing of it. It'll look normal. So this is close enough for a drawing for me. I can just go out and hack this out of a hunk of metal and spark weld it together, blah, blah, blah. So that's what I'm going to do. I did science out the center line distance and make sure I have enough adjustment to it, but it should be fine. And maybe I'll make a like a guard to keep people's errant claws from going in there, but I might not need that because I'm going to have to put something on the back of the thing to as a ballast. So the ballast might actually work fine as a guard to keep people's plates out, fingers out of there and stuff. So anyway, we'll get going on this. So I got this thing rassled in place, and my calculations appear to be pretty close to correct. Nothing's lined up. I took the base that it came, the plywood base that it came on, and drilled the holes for the mount and just kind of set it on top of there. It needs to be spaced up like 1.5 inches or something, but my mount will take care of that. And that's just to put this in the center of this hole. So so that's fine. And if I try to pull this towards me, so these line up, the springiness of the belt just kind of pulls it back. So, but I think it's pretty close to where it needs to be. And this pump here looks actually fairly close to what I intended. So this is where the mount is going to be. Right here where this line is drawn on the plywood. And it's 4.5 inches from there to there. And the width of this pump is 3.5 inches. So that means I got 1 inch to make a turn, which I think should be not a problem. So I'm going to go take this pump into the shop and kind of clean it up and throw it in the solvent tank and take all this contraption of pipes off. And then, yeah, this thing is going to actually mount this way, but over here. So, but I got to clean it up first because I got to get all those yuckies off of there. And then we'll be welding up a bracket here pretty soon and machining some pulleys. And one other thing that I did notice that I didn't really think about, but I already talked about having to switch these covers, which is no big deal, and I got to fix the dipstick tube because it's on the wrong side. But This is where the air filter is. And I'm pretty sure I can't get that air filter out of there. So, because these guys are in the way, which honestly don't really do anything. This is for like some PTO something that I don't use, but see if I can flip this around backwards maybe, I don't know. We'll figure something out. Alright, so this is kind of grungy. Let's get that. Okay, back from the solvent tank. Look at that. It's like brand new. Yeah, here in a minute. Appears to have Teflon tape. That's not a thing, but okay.
Go in here and go see what Scott's doing.
Let's see what Scotty's doing.
Go, go. No,
Come on.
no.
Come on, Scott. Come on, Levi. Yay, Scotty's in here.
Wow, huh?
He just chased a car down the road.
So he did? Or-
No,
No,
Levi.
Levi.
Are you filming?
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
that's fine. I can edit you out.
Okay, good.
Look at that.
Get your
Came off
feet
with a
out.
puller, and I didn't even need to put a wrench on the puller.
Here, I
It
need
just fell off.
put the camera here.
That's aiming that way.
Hey,
You gotta do what you gotta do to get the views, right?
It helps.
any man will want to see that.
I can't
Instead of the
believe-
tool that you're working on.
I can't believe this worked.
Why does that surprise you? You're so smart. There's my broom.
Wouldn't you
I
know?
wondered what happened to it.
Okay.
No comment.
No
problem.
comment. All right.
Somebody put a piece of copper in here as a spacer because it was the wrong size bore. And that's why I said I can't believe that worked. And they put a slice in it, so it would.
Now what's that
Oh.
to?
That goes to the skid steer motor,
Oh,
the old
okay.
motor.
Come here.
So
Come here.
I guess
you
they,
get stuff all over your face.
I guess they put a different pump on it. And it was a different size bore, so they fixed her.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And they drilled a little hole in it
To someone.
make the set screw go through,
Oh, I
which
see. Scott has a whiteboard too.
wouldn't have helped.
Yeah.
The whole fucking place is a whiteboard. What do you mean?
We can call him.
Over there and over there.
Oh, and I got a poster for you and a poster
Oh.
for me.
What do we see except rolled belly? We don't see anything good.
Oh, go to the next month. There, that's a better view. Oh, Teflon tape. Not what I would recommend on a hydraulic pump. Because this stuff can fall off inside and not really help things out much. In case you're wondering what my plan is, I already have one. If I had one, it would be to get all the hardware store nightmare out of here, which is all this shit here. And then I could put a socket on here and rail gun it, or at least get a real wrench on it. So that's my plan. Good, bad, or indifferent. That's the plan. looks like a monkey fucking football over here, because it kind of is. Anytime you're dealing with pipe wrenches. Monkey and the football aren't very far behind. Alright, more Teflon tape on here. Again, not recommended. Alright, so that's 1 1/8 inch. That's 1 1/4 inch. Quarter of those calipers. Never been calibrated. Alright, SAE O-ring boss. Nice. You don't need no fucking Teflon tape on that guy, because it's properly designed. A quarter, but okay, so I was kind of hoping that was the case, but the inlet is bigger, which makes sense. And it is just a gear pump. I don't know if you can see the little gear spinning around inside there. Probably not. Trust me. Looks like about 5/8 of an inch wide. Alright, so now we gotta find some fittings that go 90 degrees, which probably means I will take this fitting and this fitting and saw them in half and weld them back together. That's probably what that means. But I do have a box of fittings around here somewhere. I'll poke around, or maybe I'll see if I can find one and order it. That would make more sense. I went spelunking, or whatever it's called when it's on the mezzanine. Probably the opposite of spelunking. And I came up with these guys. So this is the straight one that was on there. And this is what I had in stock. So you might note that this is more than 1 inch long. So yeah, here's the problem. I can put this one on, but I can't put this one on. Take this one, put this one on, I can put it. Yeah. Okay, so this is the contraption. Oil pump mounts in here, and that's the adjustment for it. So I tried to make this part, I just made it out of plywood because the base of the motor that came in the box was mounted to plywood, so I just kind of cut it out and put the holes in where they go. And I noticed there's not a lot of room over here. There's only like 1 inch to make the lines turn, which isn't really enough. So what I'm planning on doing is I ordered some banjo fittings over here, and I redesigned this guy a little bit because because of if this plate here and this mount is all one piece, and then I bolt the motor or the pump to this and then the outlets, if I need to take this pump off, I got to take this whole base plate off, the motor off, like the whole work has to come off, because it's going to be sandwiched up against the side of the rig over here where the gas tank is, actually the frame / gas tank. So I decided to make this thing just a separate piece. So this will like slide back and forth this way. So minor redesign. I had to make this one extra piece, and this part gets a little bit easier, and then I got some bolts down here. But these bolts should be easily accessible because this has got to be raised up to get this shiv system in the center of the hole in the frame. So one other piece of information that I wanted to share was this pulley, which shows up like this with a 15mm hole in it. And it needs to have an 1 7/16 hole and a 3/8 keyway in it. And of course I don't have a keyway cutter broach thingy for that. So what I'm doing instead is I'm going to drill a couple of 1/8 inch holes here. I could have used a different size, but whatever. And then I'm going to drill a 3/8 hole here, kind of make a Mickey Mouse face there. And then when I cut the hole, that's the size of this is 1 7/16. Then the only difference between what holes I just drilled here and that is not very much, right? It's just a tiny little difference, and I can file that pretty easily to make it line up. So that's what I'm going to do, and then the same thing for the little guy, the one that goes on the pump. So again, it shows up like that. I'm going to drill 2 little holes. These happen to be 3/32. I don't want these to touch each other because if you're drilling like 3/4 of a hole, it kind of wanders. So that has a full drill diameter. And then I go through with a 3/16 because it's 3/16 keyway. And then when I open the hole up to the size that it needs to be, which is 11/16, and then it's not very much to cut out of there. Yeah, so you can see the tiny amount of information of extra material I'm going to have to, and this is like 5/1000 of an inch or something like that. And square file will take care of that pretty easily. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to head out to the machine shop now and start machining on this stuff. And then we'll have some pulleys. So what I'm doing here is I'm putting this in back gear. And then I'm going to power tap this. I do have a tapping head, but unless you're doing a lot of holes, it's not really worth it. So I put it in back gear and then put it in reverse. That makes it go the right way. And then that will feed all by itself, approximately to the right depth. We're going to chase it by hand later anyway, so put a little bit of force on that. Viola, we have threads. A lot of times, if I want to get the holes the same depth, what I do is I stick this guy on here, and then this is just a little piece of rubber that I cut out, and you stick that there, and then you eyeball when it gets close to that rubber, and if it hits it, it just squishes the rubber a little bit and doesn't rip the threads out. Because if you hit this hard stop, and it can't move down, it'll just rip the threads out. So this is my cheat. It lives right here, along with my, but this one doesn't really matter how deep it is, so. It's important to keep a little bit of upward force on that thing, because this has a little bit of stiction in it. And you don't want it to peel the threads out. Not that big of a deal with a 1/2-13 tap, but when you get the littler taps, it can just pull the threads right out of there if you're not putting a little bit of pressure on it. But you gotta have the touch. Not too much pressure, just enough. Okay, so what I just did was drilled and tap a couple of holes. So I can put this pulley up here. And then I can thread a strap clamp on here to hold it down. Get a couple more of those. So there, that should hold it down nice. Machinist wrench. This is, one size fits this, the other side fits this. So if you don't have one of these, you should. Okay, so now we got that thing fairly fastened down. So the next thing I need to do, because I just set this thing on there, the next thing we need to do is indicate this straight. Turn that stupid thing off because it makes a lot of noise. And I kind of eyeball this thing to center, so that should be really close to center. So now I just need indicator. Which is this guy here. Like this is a test indicator. There's also travel indicators that have a lot more travel. This is a test indicator. And then an Indicall, that's a brand name, but it's designed to just clamp around the spindle here. And then you can adjust it super quickly and easily. Pretty self-explanatory how it works. You use the same thing for indicating vices in. Pretty universal tool in the machine shop world. If you're watching this video, maybe you're not in the machine shop world, which is fine. Alright, it's important to get this thing kind of centered. It's fairly good. See, it's touching on that side now. It's touching on that side. That's about +7. It's about +10, +14. Shoot the middle, go for 12. 12. Okay, once you got that kind of close, make it 0. Not quite. Okay, so we're 0 there. When you're doing this, make sure you don't touch this or anything part of the Indicall. Otherwise it'll move it a little bit. So just grab a hold of the chalk or this thing. So it looks like that's about 2/10,000ths of an inch off. About 2/10,000ths of an inch off. That's right on 0. Yeah, so that's really good. Give it a flick here. See that it doesn't move, and then set this to 0. Now that's the center of that hub, or at least as close to the center of the hub as this thing showed up off the UPS truck. I have to assume it's fairly good. I mean, I don't have to, but I'm going to. Okay, so now that we got our 0, as I explained earlier, this is my ANSI Fortnite. So what I'm going to do is drill some little holes in here like I explained earlier, and then a bigger hole, and then I'm going to bore the center out to the size. So since I don't have a keyway broaching tool, I'm going to do it kind of cheesily. But if you're in a pinch and you have to do it, this is what you have to do. So any idiot can go out and buy a broaching tool. The problem is you have to have a broaching tool for literally every size, key, and diameter, and it's just not feasible to have that many. You have to be a broaching shop to really make that science out for you. So this way works out. I've done it before. You can also put a lathe tool in here and kind of grind it as a shaper and go through, move over, go through, and keep doing that. That works as well. I've done it, but it's a little bit more tricky chucking a square, unless you have a square collet, putting a square lathe tool into the collet and keeping it oriented right. And there's no real lock on this thing. You just put it in back gear to kind of keep it. But even if it's in back gear, this thing moves a little bit. So it can be done. I've done it. It's not the best. It's not the worst. It will get you by in a pinch. But this way and a file works pretty good. So, well, let's find out. It's worked out in the past. Now, if you're doing something that's super hard, not aluminum, then that broachy thing is probably not going to work, but this still will. So keep that in mind. Keep all of this in mind. So I'm going to do the little guy first. Reason for that is if I completely fuck it up, I can make that into the big guy, because this one's going to get an 11/16 hole in it, and this one's going to get an 7/16 hole in it. So if I completely fuck the dog on this one, it'll just become the big hole one, right? So I'm not going to do the big hole one first, because if I screw that up, then I have to order another part and wait 2 weeks for it to get here. So do the little one first. That's my reasoning. Usually if you have a backup plan, you don't need it. If you don't have a backup plan, then you do. So I'm going to go with having a backup plan. Okay, so this is what I got. I got an 093, actually it's a 3/32, so it's slightly over 093 drill. And it's a jobber length, so it's long enough to go through the entire part. That's important. So we got the two 3/32 holes in there. Now I just need 3/16. I'm going to do that with a milling cutter. Okay, so I got my 3/16 emerald in there. As you can plainly see, it's not long enough to reach. But that's what I got, so that's what I'm going to use. I'll go through with this as far as I can, and then I'll use a drill the rest of the way. Alright. Cover your eyes. Yep. Looks legit. Okay, so now take the drill chuck out of here. I'll put the boring head back in, and then I'll bore this to 687-ish. Okay, so I have this thing set. I'm going to go all the way to the bottom just to kind of clearance the fixture. Right. Cool. Okay, so finally some quiet around here. That's what I ended up with. Just gonna deburr that diameter a little bit. It didn't quite go all the way through, so just putting a little chamfer on there. Make sure it does. And that's what it looks like. I haven't done any filing on that keyway yet, but I will. I don't have a keyway for it right now because the one that was on that pump was manthied or modified in an inappropriate way. So when I get that keyway, I will fit it and file this. And I'm going to do the big one next, but same process, just more boring video. I won't subject you to that. Okay, so that's machine complete. I haven't filed it yet, but I did try it on the motor and it slides right on, as does this one. So, yeah. Now, I did order some banjo fittings instead of those, coming from Great Britain. I don't know, purveyor of banjo fittings. I guess that is a British thing. So when those show up, I also redesigned the bracket a little bit. It was, since the banjo fittings are so close to the frame, I didn't want to have to take the entire motor off to take the pump off, right? So I'm making the bracket unbolt from the bracket that holds the pump. Make that tension by sliding the bracket relative to this mount piece here. So basically it'll be, this is the mount, and then the pump mounts to the side of that, and then this thing will slide forward and back to tighten it up. And if you need to take the pump off, you just unbolt this bracket. It'll be kind of an L bracket here. And then I can take it off without fucking taking the whole motor off. So hopefully I'll never have to, but you never know. There's hoses that, whatever, pumps fail, you get a leak in that thing, whatever. I just don't want to make it a pain in the ass for myself or somebody else in the future. So decided to redesign it, which is, I frequently do that. I think I'm on my 4th version of the roll cage for this guy. So I cartooned it up, what is best in my mind at that point, and then I think about it for a while, and then it changes. So, and I'm not on a deadline. I just want to make the bestest. So that's what I'm going to do. So I've gone about as far as I can until I get those banjo fittings. I don't want to weld everything together and drill holes in the motor mount bracket until I get those banjo fittings, mock everything up, and then I'll be able to spark all this stuff together and get it bolted on. But until then, waiting for the United Kingdom's Postal Service to deliver. Thanks for watching. If you like this content and want more, subscribe, like, and share.